各位道友，此地的宝物已然清点完毕，走吧，咱们前往2楼。此地竟然供奉妖神！
Yang Ruyan bitterly smiled in response and began to speak when Marquis Nanlong suddenly called out, "Come over, fellow Taoists. We will first be distributing the treasures of this floor before heading up." Once this was said, Han Li paid no more heed to Yang Ruyan and walked over. Yang Ruyan's beautiful face flickered with several emotions in response before gracefully following after him. When Wang Chan saw that Yang Ruyan was following after Han Li, he appeared slightly bewildered. But after giving Yang Ruyan a deep glance, he shrewdly decided to keep silent on the matter. As for Wang Chenggu, he turned a blind eye to the matter. Marquis Nanlong had already gathered all the items onto one shelf and calmly said, "All right, let us make clear of the contents. There are 6 ancient treasures, 10 magic treasures, and 8 shares of materials and medicine pills that are organized in accordance to their value. Of course, what everyone wants the most will be the ancient treasures. After all, their full strength can be displayed without any refinement. However, these magic treasures aren't common items either. They were all magic treasures left behind from Master Kangkuan's formidable opponents. Their might should be great. Even if only 70% of their might can be displayed after spending some time to refine them, it will certainly be worth it. As such, you may pick them in accordance to your desires. Fellow Taoists Wang Chan and Yang Ruyan, you will only be allocated 1 share." The old woman bluntly rushed to take advantage of her age and lay a claim, "As old as I am, how do I have the time to refine a magic treasure? It will be an ancient treasure, of course." The others didn't respond to her words, but they wryly laughed in their hearts. At that moment, Wang Chenggu spoke with Marquis Nanlong with a heavy tone, "Will fellow Taoists Nanlong and you not be taking first pick? There might not be any items you want on the 2nd floor. Marquis Nanlong's expression grew sullen and he coldly said, "Brother Wang, what do you mean?" The white-clothed old man stared at Wang Chenggu with an unfriendly expression. Wang Chenggu turned a blind eye to this and chuckled, "It's nothing, I felt it would just be a pity if you decided to not take first pick with these treasures." With an icy expression, Marquis Nanlong snorted, "There is nothing here that fellow Daoist Jun and I wish to take using first priority. As for fellow Daoist Han, it will be his choice to decide whether or not he will use his privilege." He seemed to be greatly displeased with Wang Chenggu's words. Han Li rubbed his chin and casually said, "I also don't wish to use my privilege. I'll be keeping it for the 2nd floor." Wang Chenggu spoke without reservation, "Since that's the case, we will divide the treasures evenly amongst us. If you want an ancient treasure, then you renounce the right to pick a magic treasures afterwards. Fellow Taoists, do you agree?" "That method is fine, I agree." "That's fine." The others felt this to be fair and each of them agreed. Of course, Han Li chose to renounce the magic treasures. As for the white-clothed old man and the tan man, they chose to renounce the ancient treasures. Instead, they each took 2 magic treasures and a share of the materials and medicine pills. As for the others, they each took a single ancient treasure. Han Li acquired a bamboo tube. Although he didn't know the level of its power or its abilities, he placed the item into his storage pouch without much care. He also took a share of the medicine pills and materials. Once Han Li and the others each took a single magic treasure, they finished distributing the items on the 1st floor. As for the praying mat, Han Li noticed that the white-clothed old man had already tossed it to the floor without paying it any further attention. It didn't appear to be valuable. As for the yin focus herb, it seemed that many had recognized it, but none were interested. Han Li wryly chuckled in his mind. It seemed no one was fool enough to take it. These nascent soul eccentrics had examined everything present. After all, it was quite possible there were hidden treasures. Once these nascent soul eccentrics searched through the 1st floor once more, the party climbed up to the 2nd floor without any unexpected discoveries, but when they arrived they were stunned by the sight. As soon as they entered the 2nd floor, they were hit with a wave of incense. There was a small offering shrine at the top of the 2nd floor stairs with a golden statue of a ferocious single-horned demon with 6 arms. It appeared aggressive and lifelike. There was a fire-red cauldron in front of the shrine that was emitting spirals of white smoke. It was the origin of the incense in the air. Marquis Nanlong and the others were shocked to see that Master Kangkuan had enshrined a demon beast. But when Han Li saw the statue, Han Li felt his heart jump. The statue seemed to exactly the same as the demon beast in the sacred provenance plate. It even had the same fierce glare and 6 arms that were all raised to the heavens. Han Li then turned his gaze toward everything else on the 2nd floor. About 10 meters away, he saw a common desk and chair. There was an ink slab, a brush, bamboo slips, and many other items. On the side opposite to the shrine, there was a blue jade bed. Although it was far away, he could faintly sense it emit a frigid aura as if it were carved from glacial jade. On top of the bed, there were 3 jade boxes that appeared rather eye-catching. It seemed the second floor was Master Kenkuan's bedroom. In a blur, the white-clothed old man appeared at the side of the cold jade bed and took one of the jade boxes into his hand. Wait a moment. Soon after this was said, another silhouette appeared at the side of the bed. Their hand began to shine with black light and they pointed it at the old man's back. The white-clothed old man withdrew his wrist and avoided the sneak attack. In his alarmed fury, he glared at his attacker with hostility. What are you doing? You wish to exchange blows with me? The attacker with the fluttering robes was Wang Tuangu. Wang Tuangu calmly said, Brother Yun, please don't be so hasty. I merely wish to confirm whether or not fellow Daoist Yun wished to use his priority selection on this jade box and renounce the privilege on any other items. The white-clothed old man regained his calm, but he glared at Wang Tuangu nonetheless. Naturally, I want to take a look inside first. Why would I choose it if it were useless? Wang Tuangu wore a fearless expression and instead glanced at the 3 jade boxes on the jade bed. He calmly said, if I remember correctly, we agreed that you two would have first pick and we would evenly divide what was left over, but doesn't fellow Daoist believe that there will be enough to divide once the jade boxes are taken? What is fellow Daoist planning? Go ahead and say it. Do you plan on reneging on our agreement? Marquis Nanlong took several steps forward and stood alongside the old man. With a malicious expression, he swept his gaze past the 3 ghost spirit sect cultivators. Wang Tuangu smiled and calmly said, I have no intention of breaking my promise. However, there are far too few treasures on the second floor to be decided. Since the jade boxes cannot be seen through with spiritual sense, they are probably the most precious items in the building. Perhaps Master Kenkuan's profound cultivation arts or even the secret of Devil Fall Valley lay within. Even under these circumstances, you two fellow Daoists wish to perceive their value before choosing the item. Isn't this excessive? The white-clothed old man excessive? I only recall that you fellow Daoists personally agreed to our conditions of priority selection. What does it have to do with us if there aren't enough items here? The old woman surprisingly backed Wang Tuangu. Those words can't be said. Fellow Daoists are allowed to have first pick with the items, but they can't examine what are within the boxes. If fellow Daoists are unsure, they may pick another item. For example, this glacial jade bed is a rather rare treasure. To cultivators within ice cultivation arts, it is a vastly precious treasure. Once that was said, Marquis Nanlong's expression became gloomy. He suddenly emitted an immense pressure that forced Wang Tuangu and the old woman to take a step back. At nascent soul stage, the difference in power between early and mid-stage wasn't something to underestimate. Marquis Nanlong narrowed his eyes and swept his gaze past the rest of the party with eyes as cold as a sword's edge. If there is anyone who believes fellow Daoist Wang's words to be reasonable, step forward. For Brother Wang to act so boldly, he should more than just Madam Tai supporting him. After a moment of silence, the Tan cultivator calmly said, Marquis Nanlong, there is no need to be angry. Brother Wang's words aren't without reason. Fellow Daoist can't just leave us with scraps. As for the stern-faced cultivator, he unconsciously frowned and hesitantly stood behind Wang Tuangu as if forgetting of their unfriendly relationship. Suddenly, apart from Han Li, the 2 parties stood in confrontation. Marquis Nanlong and the white-clothed old man's expressions vastly changed. Marquis Nanlong instantly regained his calm and asked, It seems you formed a group beforehand. Just when have you decided this? You shouldn't have had the opportunity on the way here. Wang Tuangu nonchalantly said, It is impossible to have formed a group all at once. These fellow Daoist and I had a small meeting before we left. We talked about a few plans of self-preservations as well as any unexpected circumstances. This was one of the situations that we had anticipated. We now have no option but to write against fellow Daoists Nanlong and Yun. Marquis Nanlong's expression grew icy. His gaze soon landed on Han Li and he gravely asked, Fellow Daoist Han, what will you do? As of current, the 2 mid-nascent soul cultivators were standing in confrontation against for early nascent soul cultivators and 2 late core formation cultivators. From the balance of power, Han Li, who had yet to pick a side, had become a crucial point to the conflict. Han Li didn't immediately choose. He merely turned his head and calmly looked at Wang Tuangu's party, attempting to read their expressions the best he could. Not only did Wang Tuangu look at Han Li with a calm expression, but he also calmly smiled, revealing not a trace of worry. At his side, Wang Chan appeared excited and Yang Ruyan appeared to be at a loss. They didn't seem to know that Wang Tengu and the others had formed an alliance beforehand. Lady Tai and the stern-faced cultivator didn't reveal the slightest alarm. They merely glanced at Han Li with an emotionless gaze. Han Li's heart thumped. He felt that something was amiss and he grew greatly vigilant. He casually took several steps away from either party and smiled, "I don't have an opinion. Regardless of whatever the outcome fellow Daoist Wang or brother Nanlong decides, I will not oppose it." Marquis Nanlong wasn't surprised by Han Li's words. Han Li had always displayed a neutral attitude. The question was merely verifying what the Marquis already suspected. Marquis Nanlong's expression relaxed and he nodded to Han Li. His gaze then turned towards Wang Tengu and he coldly smiled as if about to speak. But at that moment, the white-clothed old man suddenly took a step forward and icily said, "Brother Nanlong, for what reason are you talking to them? Do these people truly believe that they will be able to cause us to succeed by joining hands? Delusional." Once this was said, he opened his mouth and spat out a shining white magic treasure. "Fellow Daoist, wait. I am. You." Marquis Nanlong frowned and thought to stop the old man's rash actions as their chances of victory weren't entirely certain. They didn't expect that the old man would suddenly command the silver wheel to fly in his direction. A muffled peng sounded out. Under Marquis Nanlong's incredulous gaze, the silver wheel tore through the golden light protecting his body and directly struck his chest. Not only was he forced to take several steps back, but there was also a depression left in his chest. Marquis Nanlong responded with furious alarm. He flung his sleeve and shot a small golden blade from his palm towards the old man. But at that moment, the old man blurred and appeared at Wang Tengu's side. He had raised his hand and commanded the silver wheel to block the golden sword. He then coldly glanced at Marquis Nanlong's chest. Beneath his torn robes, there was a layer of shining azure cloth armor. Although it had a deep depression, it was still in one piece. The old man's expression flickered and he expressionlessly muttered, "Azure rhino armor. As expected, you wore it on hand." Marquis Nanlong's cheek began to appear dark red and he stroked his chest, staring at the old man as he furiously spoke, "Good, very good. I didn't expect you to have been bought by them." Although their view was obstructed by blinding light, all could see that he was seriously injured. The old man ignored Marquis Nanlong as if he were a stranger and said, "Fellow Daoists, be careful. Do not let him leave this place alive. With his cultivation, we will attract no small amount of trouble." The stern-faced cultivator sinisterly smiled, "Relax. We have so many people on our side, and he is seriously injured. It will be impossible for him to escape." He then spat out a misty white flying saber from his mouth. At that moment, Wang Tengu turned his head to Han Li and amiably said, "Fellow Daoist Han, if you help us deal with him, you'll receive a portion of his treasure. How about it?" He spoke sincerely as if ignoring the past hostilities that Han Li and Wang Chan shared. "Help you?" The previous scene came as a great shock to Han Li and his expression vastly changed. His eyes then turned towards the stairs. In the instant the old man attacked Marquis Nanlong, the old woman has silently guarded the staircase. Otherwise, Han Li would have already made his escape. Since the walls of the pavilion were flickering with white light, it was clear that it was under the effects of some formidable restriction and would be incapable of being broken through. Han Li didn't trust Wang Tengu's proposal to group together. Surely Han Li would be next after Marquis Nanlong was eliminated. They would have extended the offer to Han Li to join hands beforehand were this not the case. He reckoned that from the very start, it had been decided for Han Li to die alongside Marquis Nanlong. With that thought, Han Li's expression remained calm as he attempted to agree with them for the time being. However, Marquis Nanlong scoffed and said, "Fellow Daoist Han, you can't honestly believe such a shallow trick. Although I don't know what methods fellow Daoist Wang used to entice the lot of them, my good friend of 100 years included, but if we join hands, there is hope for survival. But if we allow them to deal with us separately, we will certainly meet our doom." As Marquis Nanlong spoke, he brushed his hand past his chest. In a pulse of soft white light, the depression in the armor was restored back to normal. Wang Tengu and the others were surprised, but the white-clothed old man calmly explained, "There is no need to be worried. He is merely using a secret technique to temporarily suppress his injuries. There is still lasting damage. But he will be troublesome together with that youngster Han. Have someone tangle him down for the time being. Kill Marquis Nanlong first." Once the old man finished, he unhurriedly pointed the silver wheel in front of him. The magic treasure immediately turned into a silver streak above his head. A mist of white light spread around his body, causing him to appear indistinct. Knowing that Marquis Nanlong held a bone-deep grudge against him, he wasn't about to hold back in the slightest. Wang Tuangu frowned and felt that this was reasonable. He turned his head to the stern-faced cultivator and said, "Brother Long, deal with that youngster for a moment. You don't need to try your hardest to kill him. Just keep him occupied. After we deal with Marquis Nanlong, we'll kill him together." Wang Tuangu icily glared at Han Li and no longer contained his killing intent. His body suddenly emitted a meter-tall black radiance, completely enveloping him in darkness. When the old woman and the tan cultivator saw this, they each spat out their magic tools in preparation. The stern-faced cultivator chuckled and silently slipped out a milky white jade scepter from his sleeve. He then took several steps forward and mysteriously smiled at Han Li. "Not a problem. I'll deal with fellow Daoist Han." From his point of view, holding down a cultivator that had just entered nascent soul stage was a trivial affair. It was far safer than attempting to confront a mid-nascent soul cultivator. Han Li stared at the stern-faced cultivator and remained entirely still, but when he saw that the old woman had left the stairwell, his heart began to heavily thump. He tightly grabbed onto the ancient treasure that was hidden in his sleeve. At that moment, Marquis Nanlong swept his sleeve and sent out a mist of gold, sweeping the 3 jade boxes on the bed into his grasp. "Take it!" Marquis Nanlong tossed one of the jade boxes to Han Li without any hesitation. This action was greatly unexpected and none attempted to block it. Han Li easily caught the jade box with slight confusion on his face. With his arms behind his back, Marquis Nanlong explained, "Since fellow Daoist isn't following their wretched actions, I will give this jade box to you. If the box truly contains the secrets of Devil Fall Valley and fellow Daoist is able to make it out alive, it can be considered a fated chance." When the others heard this, their expressions vastly changed. Han Li glanced down at the jade box in his hand and licked his lips. He inwardly felt a desire to howl with laughter, but he managed to retain his calm with his exceeding force of will. The item that all the cultivators presently wished to acquire had fallen right into his hands. He found it hilarious. Of course, Marquis Nanlong hadn't done this out of kindness. Since the other side were determined to acquire the jade boxes, he gave a jade box to Han Li in order to divert their attention and create an opportunity for himself to escape. Marquis Nanlong was quite a decisive and formidable character to abandon a treasure that was already in his possess. But once Han Li realized that very treasure was in his hands, he couldn't help but inwardly laugh. Han Li flipped his hand without a thought and placed it away in a storage pouch. Wang Chenggu's expression grew sullen and he decisively ordered, "Chana, assist fellow Daoist Long with Ruyan. Do not allow that youngster Han the opportunity to escape. The others and I will be enough for the Marquis." He appeared calm and his reason wasn't overturned by his desire for the jade box. He merely sent the weakest among them to look after Han Li and paid him no more heed. When the others saw this, they grew tempted, but they all knew that so long as they could kill Marquis Nanlong first, Han Li was as good as theirs. "Yes, second uncle. I was already thinking of it." Wang Chan's eyes revealed a malicious expression and he sinisterly smiled. He then beckoned to Yang Ruyan and walked towards Han Li. A complicated expression flickered on Yang Ruyan's face for a moment, and she silently followed after him. Han Li calmly glanced at the two without the slightest change in emotion. Han Li found it rather laughable. Although weapons were at the ready, the battle had yet to start on the other side. It wasn't due to any lingering sentiments, but due to caution. With Marquis Nanlong now a cornered beast, there was a change he might steel his resolve and decide to take one or two with them in mutual destruction. With the fear of a counterattack from a mid-nascent soul on death's door, they were each unwilling to be the first to strike in fear of receiving a fatal counterattack. Moreover, they weren't in the slightest rush. With Marquis Nanlong's wounds only worsening with time, the advantage laid with them. But bafflingly, Marquis Nanlong stood motionlessly in place as if he were unconcerned with his injuries. However, his red complexion was only growing brighter, nearly becoming the same shade as blood itself. This only caused Wang Tuangu and the others to appear more hesitant. In fear that the Marquis would employ a secret technique to muster the entirety of his strength, they each gazed at him from a distance with icy gazes. As for the stern-faced cultivator, he did indeed take the initiative to attack Han Li. His only goal was to tie him down. While Wang Chan held only the desire to kill Han Li as soon as possible, he lacked the cultivation to act. As such, the entire building was entirely peaceful despite the profuse killing intent that was present. A short moment later, Han Li wore a pensive expression and sighed. Although he wasn't loud, it was noticed by everyone present. As each of the nascent soul eccentrics in the building were shrewd and cunning, none of them turned their attention to Han Li apart from the stern-faced cultivator. As for Wang Chan, he curled his lips and sneered. From their point of view, Han Li could only take action after Marquis Nanlong. It was only in that case he could take advantage of the chaos to escape. Nobody believed that Han Li would take action after he sighed. Han Li calmly raised his hand and revealed a pitch-black item in his hand. Marquis Nanlong narrowed his eyes. Before he could even see what it was, he flung it into the air without any reservation. It spun in a circle before instantaneously expanding to the size of 25 meters, forming what seemed to be a wall between both sides of the conflict. When the stern-faced cultivator clearly saw the pitch-black mountain, he did indeed know what treasure it was. While he was surprised, he managed to react and pointed to the jade scepter in front of him. In an instant, the jade scepter loudly hummed and brightly shined with white light. A huge white tiger then materialized from the radiance. Although the tiger appeared indistinct, it bared its ferocious fangs as soon as it appeared and instantly shot a beam of blazing white light towards the black mountain. With a loud rumble, the white light instantly engulfed a majority of the mountain. Wang Chan also reacted. He formed an incantation gesture with his hands, engulfing his body in a crimson mist. In that same moment, the stench of blood filled the air. As for Yang Ruyan, she also formed an incantation gesture and enveloped herself in crimson mist. However, she emitted an odd fragrance rather than the scent of blood. A whiff of it would cause one's mind to become dizzy and muddled. The stern-faced cultivator felt some relief at this. As he willed the white tiger to spit out another beam of light with his jade scepter, he slapped his storage pouch with his other hand, summoning an inch-large, faint blue good into his hand. Just as he was about to deploy the good, he suddenly heard a faint roll of thunder. In his alarm, he formed a hand incantation without any hesitation and formed a dense light barrier around him. At nearly that same time, a flash of silver lightning appeared at his side, revealing Han Li with silver wings emerging from his back. The stern-faced cultivator was greatly shocked, but as a result of his rich combat experience, he hastily raised the good in his hand and shot out a dazzling bolt of blue lightning. In the instant the blue lightning shot out, Han Li did indeed dodge. Rather, he blankly opened his mouth, spitting out a thread of blue flame. The blue flames pierced through the white light barrier without the slightest resistance and shot towards the stern-faced cultivator. The meager wisp of blue flame was able to pass through the light barrier unobstructed, much to the surprise of the stern-faced cultivator. Lacking any time to dodge, the wisp of flame struck his neck. With a crackle, the stern-faced cultivator became entirely consumed in blue ice, forming a glistening ice sculpture. Much to the stern-faced cultivator's misfortune, Han Li had particularly directed the celestial ice flames to strike at his neck as a result of his experience from fighting the spell warrior. With his head frozen over, he had no opportunity to cast any techniques and change the outcome. In the same moment Han Li turned the stern-faced man into an ice sculpture. The blue lightning from the good struck Han Li before its thunder could sound out. But before it could strike Han Li's body, a net of faint gold lightning suddenly appeared on Han Li's body. In a flicker of golden light, the blue lightning was absorbed and disappeared from sight. Han Li then hesitantly reached forward and quickly snatched away the blue good. Han Li's use of the thunderstorm wings, the icing of the stern-faced cultivator surnamed Long, and the acquisition of the treasure took place in a mere instant. Just as Wang Chan had thought to step forward and assist the stern-faced cultivator, he witnessed his instantaneous defeat. Wang Chan could hardly believe what he just saw.